Today, I'm not going to hide it from you. Things are all over the place because Trump made some extremely important statements at Davos that are going to have an impact. We're also talking about Bitcoin, which has corrected with extreme volatility. Why is it correcting? Why are the markets reacting like this? And what's really going on? What's going to happen in the next few days? So today, things are all over the place, extreme volatility. It took me a bit of time to put together this daily update, especially to prepare it like every day, because there's a huge amount of information. We're going to go over it. I'll summarize it for you. So first, we're seeing a real shockwave from three sources of tension. At least that's how I've summed it up, three sources. The first is the well-known trade war that's intensifying between the United States and the European Union. And we also have the bond market. We'd kind of forgotten about it, but the Japanese bond market continues to show signs of weakness. And above all, pension funds are starting to reduce their exposure to treasuries. So that's a signal that is often, well, rarely insignificant. Before that, I just wanted to talk to you and remind you that tomorrow in the club, we have an exceptional live session. We're going to talk about the strategy I'm using right now, what I'm buying, what I'm selling. I'll share everything about my outlook. We'll also talk about macroeconomics and geopolitics. I'll also talk to you about Bitcoin, real estate, and also altcoins, especially altcoins. And I'll also talk about the different scenarios. I'll discuss the key support and resistance levels to watch. So what you should know is that the club's live sessions usually last 2 to 3 hours, sometimes even 4 hours, and every week I'm live. So I go over the entire market from A to Z. I answer all your questions live, and there are hundreds of you, literally hundreds, who have shown your interest and applied through the link in the description and the pinned comment. Thank you for that, but please only apply if you are truly and genuinely motivated to join the club and really want to level up with my team, because I'm not doing this alone. So the live session is tomorrow. You can see the countdown is ticking, and we have a lot of files to go through, a lot of applications. So you should know this is a small, high-end premium club, so we only accept a few candidates each week, and the live session is in 24 hours. So I'll leave the details in the description and pinned comment, but only, and I repeat, only if you are truly motivated to become a club member. My team will contact you. Now that we've said that, let's simply get started with the US stock market, because we have a lot to cover today. The market has just taken another monumental hit with over $1.3 trillion wiped out in a single session. So what you need to know is that the Nasdaq and the S&P 500, which had started the year timidly in the green, have just completely erased their gains for 2026 and are now back in the yellow, actually in the red. And this kind of combination creates the perfect cocktail for a risk aversion that is simply massive. On the liquidation side, there was carnage in the stock markets, and logically we move on to the crypto chapter, where unsurprisingly there was also a bloodbath in 24 hours. We saw nearly $1 billion go up in smoke due to liquidations, and there's also a very important point. The most spectacular event remains this 1-minute candle that happened during the night of January 20th at 11:30 p.m. So in just a single minute, Bitcoin dropped by $1,576. So it was a real trap that was set up. Sometimes we talk a little about exchanges, like what happened on October 20th last year, but it perfectly illustrates the fragility of the market when liquidity contracts. Also, Trump reacted today to the Supreme Court's decision, which has to rule on the legality or not of his tariff policy. And the message actually is very simple. That is to say, if the tariffs are found to be illegal, well, they will have to reimburse, I'm talking about the United States here, the amounts collected, and that will be extremely complicated. Let's not kid ourselves. In other words, we're talking about a potential budgetary shock that would hit at the worst possible time, just when the traditional markets are already in a full-blown panic like they are right now, and volatility is exploding everywhere. And so this kind of statement prepares the markets for a scenario where possibly either the Supreme Court will uphold the tariffs, in which case Washington keeps its financial cushion, or it will overturn them, and then the US government will have to reimburse and must reimburse a rather colossal sum. We're talking about 200 billion, which could trigger a new wave of uncertainty and macro stress, as if there wasn't enough already. On top of that, we have the Fed meeting on January 28th. We'll also be doing a special live session to cover and translate the conference and the announcement, because right now things are all over the place. Ultimately, what you need to know is that the Supreme Court has once again postponed its decision on Trump's tariffs as recently as yesterday, and this is the third consecutive delay. Naturally, this adds yet another layer of uncertainty to an already extremely and highly nervous market. Next, we're exactly in line with the ongoing macro stress I was just explaining to you and actually this is quite a strong signal that only adds to the overall picture. The 10-year Treasury yield has just closed at 4.30, its lowest level since August. We also have the US Treasury, which has once again stirred things up, and that completely changes the way we interpret the past 48 hours. According to Scott Bessent, the massive sell-off we're seeing everywhere in the stock market, in the crypto market, has, in his view, nothing to do with Greenland or even with the latest political statements. And the real culprit, according to him, though maybe they're just passing the buck, as we say, well, according to them, it's Japan. Scott Bessent talks about a 6 standard deviation move on 10-year Japanese bonds. So it's a statistically almost impossible earthquake, and yet it's very real. And as always with the bond markets, the shockwave never stays local. Meanwhile, despite everything that's going on, we have MicroStrategy, which is an outlier. This time, I'm not talking to you about Victor Wembanyama, who's an NBA alien from the NBA, but here, MicroStrategy is an alien in the crypto ecosystem because it just kicked off 2026 with its biggest Bitcoin purchase since last year. And clearly, Michael Saylor wasn't lying about his famous bigger orange. The biggest buy just happened because they acquired 22,305 BTC for about, listen to this, $2.13 billion, with an average price around $94,284 per BTC. So some people are going to say, well, that's not very smart because right now Bitcoin is oscillating. Well, it's trading and selling around $87,827 to about $88,000. Is that a smart move? But in any case, he has proven that since he set up this DCA, it's actually pretty smart. Will he buy back at a lower price? But in any case, it's true that this might not be the best timing. But when you have a DCA in place, you don't think about timing, you kind of switch off your brain specifically for that. By the way, on Kojo, we've just added a new feature right here. It's the DCA Planner. I'll put the link in the description if you want to check out this new app, which is a real hit and we're improving it every day. But as I was saying, Michael Saylor is buying back and so the biggest operation now since 2025. So what we're experiencing right now, it's not panic. In any case, we have this summary here. It's a pure macro shock because the market is being shaken in every direction by geopolitics and economic announcements. We'll talk about Trump's announcements in just a moment. And when you look at all the data, all the major corrections, I'll zoom in a bit on this for you, of Bitcoin since 2025, they happened almost to the millimeter during tariff shocks and trade tensions. Remember, April 2024, that was the case. We had new customs tariffs that dropped and caused the market to fall by about 12%. In October, there was an escalation between the United States on one side and China, which triggered a slide of 8%. And in January, we have risks related to the trade war. Once again, because of a country inhabited by 56,000 people, but which is very important in terms of rare earths, geopolitics, and also militarily, which is Greenland. Yes, who could have predicted that Greenland, with its 56,000 inhabitants, could shake up the market so much? So a 7% drop at the moment, and a statement from Donald Trump at Davos. First, he took a jab at Emmanuel Macron. I mentioned it to you on Instagram, and you can take a look at some of the shorts from this morning. But he took a jab at Emmanuel Macron and also reassured people in a way by saying he would not use force to acquire Greenland. So he says he won't need to use force. Will it be diplomatic? Will it be military? But in any case, he's trying to be reassuring. That's why the market, by the way, has regained some strength. I'm going to pull up the Bitcoin chart here. It has regained strength here. Maybe I'll go to AOLI because it happened live. At the moment he made that announcement, the market went above $90,600 and then it corrected here and we're at 87,500. Will the correction continue? We'll talk about it during tomorrow's live session in the club. Also, I wanted to tell you about the governor of the Bank of France, the French central bank, who got put in his place by Brian Armstrong, who was talking specifically about private entities when referring to Bitcoin. I'm talking to you about this person here, our governor of the French central bank, who was somewhat ridiculed, who doesn't understand Bitcoin, who thinks it's centralized. And Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, let me remind you, gave him a little reminder by saying that it was the least centralized, the most decentralized asset because it isn't owned by a company, an entity, or a person. So it shows just how much we're really at level 1 in terms of adoption and understanding of Bitcoin. I'll leave you with the link here to access the live stream. I'm going to prepare them, and you'll see this live is going to be absolutely amazing. We're really going to go in depth. I'll answer all the questions about how to get ready in the coming days. Don't hesitate to apply if you're super motivated. See you tomorrow. We'll catch up on Instagram, Telegram, and a bit everywhere between 2 videos. So sorry for the delay, a little bit for the video, but there was a ton of information. I tried to condense it all for you into 10 minutes and 45 seconds. World record, I think. See you very soon. But most of all, see you tomorrow. Ciao, ciao.